Well, obviously the easiest time to sand this disc is when it's still on the lathe. Once I take it off and I start thinning out this disc here, then it's going to be impossible to put it back on. And so I worked my way up to 600 grit here, and it's pretty smooth. Now this disc is presently 3/4 of an inch wide. It has to be brought down to about 1/4 of an inch, so it'll accommodate the movement. Now there's 3 ways that I can reduce this down to 1/4 of an inch. In other words, taking about 1/2 an inch off. And one of them is I can pass it through my thickness planer a few times. I'd probably have to make up a sled. The other way is to pass it through my drum sander, probably 50 times, and I've often said my drum sander is not a thickness planer. Or I can slice it off with a bandsaw, and I think that's what I'm going to try to do. It'd be kind of fun to see if it'll work. Now naturally, I'm not going to be wanting to pass this through the bandsaw by hand. So I'm going to have to make up a sled to put this thing on. And once I'm through with that sled, it'll be probably garbage because it's going to be a custom made thing. It'll only accommodate this. This cedar fence board was $2.56. I think if I only use half of it, that's what? About $1.25? So I think I can afford $1.25. Okay, I used a little over half of that fence board, so we'll call it $1.50. I'd like to know how old this thing is. Now I know you can buy these exact same things brand new, but this one here, I can't remember it not being in our family. I think it came from Grandpa's collection. These things are really handy. Unless you made the mistake of getting a table saw with a marble top, then they don't work. But anything cast iron or steel, they're just great. Now mind you, cast iron will rust. I'm going to tighten these up by hand later. Now they don't have to be too tight. Just hold the thing in place. I'll be taking it all apart again later anyway, when I put the glue in. Now in order for you to understand what I'm doing, I should show you. This is going to be the sled. It's going to pass through the bandsaw. The disc will be mounted on here. It'll actually be glued on there. So naturally I want to make sure that it's as square as possible. So there's a perfect 90-degree angle here. I wonder when the first time was Grandpa used this thing. Okay, I admit it, I usually just eyeball situations like that, but I was feeling a little bit nostalgic and I kind of wanted to use it. Anyway. So now I know that this is at right angle. Well, pretty close anyway. You know, after I shot this video, I got really curious about that old marking gauge. So I went online and I did a little checking. and I've come to the conclusion that it is well over 100 years old. I wonder what I'm going to look like when I'm well over 100 years old.